and you're very welcome to Kiss My Arts. My name is Mary Blake, and I'm here in the Hive for Leitrim Daily doing the arts show. Today we have Sarah Searson in the room, the director of the Arts Centre in Carrick and Shannon. You're very welcome, Sarah.
Thanks, Mary. Great to be here in a room with you.
You too. It's lovely to have you. So, you're busy in the dock as always. You're doing a lot of exciting, you're planning and plotting a lot of stuff.
We are yes. Planning and plotting away.
That's great.
Yeah.
You're making up for lost time with the live work. Although you still have been very busy with other work going on in the dock. What has lockdown been like in the dock?
Well, as you said, busy and a bit bizarre. I suppose there were a lot of cancellations and things like that, and that was really tough. But any chance we did get to open, we were to the public and kind of kept the programme rolling. We did some really interesting education projects, and we had a chance to connect with artists through like commissioning is basically what we did. So essentially, if they couldn't perform, could we invest in artists in some other way, maybe that they could write songs or they could make artwork remotely and then maybe talk about it through a series of interviews later. So we did keep going and we were quite busy. We're very lucky in lots of ways. We applied for some funding, which we got through the Leader project and the Leitrim Development Company were really great to us. And last summer we got to do a whole big upgrade of the theatre. So we now have a fantastic thing like a retractable rig system that you press a button and it comes down to the floor. We can change our lights standing up without a ladder. All new sound system. So that was just marvellous. And we did, kind of things maybe that you don't get to do in a theatre or an arts building when you're open to the public. So we did a lot of painting and decorating, upgrading, all of that kind of stuff. But really the main way that we kept in contact with artists and with our public was through commissioning. And we've been open again since May, and we've an exhibition on at the moment, and we have just of today announced a lovely series of events that are going to take place in July, August and into September. And those events are a mix of trad on a Friday night and then singer songwriter type events on the Saturday night all the way up then to the we've announced to early September, but we're all going well now. We can go maybe till the end of September.
Brilliant. Very exciting to see some live music happening at last in the town. It's wonderful. So it's a great opportunity for people to get back and get that gig feeling.
Yeah, and great for, like on all sorts of levels, great for our technicians, great for even people like Andy who runs the bar. All sorts of people have been kind of thrown completely out of kilter by this. And I suppose like the arts are important and we know they are, but like you're just so conscious of health and people's welfare and well-being. So it's just great now to come out the other side. We really missed all our people. It's not just people that come to see gigs. We've loads of people that use the dock for their own creativity, like writing groups and singing groups and active. We do a lovely little kind of series of cinema for older people, and they weren't coming. So there's a whole kind of community piece missing, so
absolutely.
being able to kind of get back up and running and get connected again.
And sometimes that's what makes us it's only now that a lot of us appreciate just how much the dock was doing and how much it was adding to our lives in Leitrim, and that's really credit to you and the great team you have there. But really always that accessibility. There is sometimes a feeling that an arts centre isn't, it's kind of for other very highbrow events, and it really couldn't be further from the truth in the dock. It is a very welcoming place and a place where it is for everybody. You just land up the stairs and have a look around and see what you think.
Well, thank you for saying that, because that is one of the things we try to work quite hard on to make it accessible. And I suppose maybe one way of looking at an art centre would be almost like a library for the arts. So it could have sort of a little bit of something for everybody. And obviously that's a big task with a small budget and a small team and everything, but we really do our best to kind of think like that. So the cultural cinema aspect and exhibitions, different types of talks, different types of music, kind of try and have a broad appeal is kind of what we're after.
Yes.
And the welcoming thing I think is really interesting, because I suppose particularly about the dock in Carrick and Shannon is what's interesting is its original use, and that building is so laden with history as a court building, and like really kind of meting out kind of justice maybe in the past that wasn't necessarily all that just way back in the olden days. So like it's a building that's changed its use. It's really important that we're welcoming and that we operate kind of in a way that's, you know, the people in the town and the region can be really proud of it, and it's actively doing stuff for people, you know, that would be our philosophy. And of course we've the design house there as well, which do fantastic work.
Yeah, and the design house where it showcases all that wonderful local talent.
Yeah.
New manager there, of course, now at Emma Cunningham. It's
yes, who we're very proud of.
I can imagine, yeah. So it's wonderful to see Emma taking over there. And it's a beautiful place to get, you know, a gift from the Leitrim Design House is always a very treasured gift. And as well, you know, you're giving back to the artists in the community. It's lovely to support them that way. The galleries are busy at the moment.
They are. We've a big show on at the moment, our summer show, and we've got lovely feedback from it actually. And again, I think it's a show that holds a bit of interest for lots of different people. We have quite contemporary work. There's a young artist there, Ellen Duffy, who's from Kildare, you know, and her work is quite contemporary and a little bit challenging in terms of the use of material. But we also have then something like beautiful drawings that are very legible. You know, if you're not particularly into visual art, these are very easily read and very attractive. And we've also lovely work by David Smith, who's our artist in residence at the moment. So, and lovely painting, beautiful floral paintings by a woman called Fiona Finlay, who is kind of she's sort of mid-age, but she's actually emerging now as a painter. She's originally from Mayo, and yeah, so I think it's a show that has something for everybody, and it's really it's very kind of sparely laid out, so it's quite elegant, and it kind of shows off the rooms, because as you know, those rooms upstairs are absolutely stunning, and sometimes it surprises me that people have never been upstairs in the dock, and it's actually the most beautiful part of the building. They're really like 3 very fine rooms up there for holding visual art, and then to the left of those and the right of those rooms there's meeting rooms, and actually we are dedicating those meeting rooms to Tina Burke and to Lila Holt, and we hope to do that in with their families maybe in early August when we can get families back together into the room. So yeah, those rooms are
those women,
great, 2 great women who were very important to the dock. And there's, I think people sometimes don't realise how beautiful the building is.
And those galleries, you know, those big high ceiling light filled rooms, I mean, they are stunning. And then you have small little spaces as well, which I find quite interesting, because I'm always wondering what's going to be behind here. So sometimes we love that big grandeur and size and scale, but sometimes it is nice to see the smaller exhibitions too.
And it kind of the scale of the room changes how you approach seeing art. Like I think, you know, people, when you go to see an exhibition, I think the main thing is to try as much as you can slow down a bit, because we're all a bit accelerated at the moment. We're all zoomed out. We're all, you know, a little bit hot, you know, maybe stressed in a way. And I think if you can kind of slow down when you come into the gallery and spend a bit of time actually looking, the works begin to talk to you, really. And I think what happens in a small room is that you're brought into very close connection with the paintings, and then you can kind of really get to see them. So yeah, that's the way it works.
And interesting that you have a mixture of established artists exhibiting and emerging artists. I mean, is that something that it just fell that way, or is that something that you consciously tried to do?
That's really, really conscious. It's something that's really important to me. You know, I had an amazing, so my background is in visual arts. I had the most amazing experience in college when I was young, with older artists that were teaching me. And I think that idea of generations coming together and exchanging knowledge is really, really important. And funny enough, it's kind of something we've been doing in the trad area, but it's very important to me that that happens in visual arts. And it might have happened years ago, maybe where people might have gone for the pint after an exhibition opening or hang out a little bit, but maybe that's died away a little bit. So the idea of bringing young and older or more established together into communication and dialogue with the actual artworks actually creates an energy, and you're whether it's that people want to follow that tradition or break from the tradition, whether if it's dissent or agreement, it doesn't matter. But with the fact that things are in dialogue, I think creates energy and they can fire off each other then.
And do you think that that benefits the artist or the consumer, so or the guest who's going up and looking at this stuff? Is it beneficial to me, who doesn't have a visual arts background, to see those things side by side?
I think so, because they start to make sense. So let's say one of the things we have in this current exhibition is Jamie Cross, and he's a young artist from Cavan, and some of the materials that he might use, people kind of go, oh my goodness, I wouldn't have thought that was art. But then when you see it in context of other things, they begin to meld and knit together. And if you used a food analogy, for example, it might be that, you're a very traditional cook, but you love a particular maybe spice that's from Morocco. You add a little bit of something in and the thing begins to sing. So I think that idea of bringing, it's a little bit thought through, because we try and find a train of connection between them. But the idea of mixing it up a little bit does create energy, definitely.
And interesting, I suppose, to be able to be at the beginning of a career of the artist like this and to watch them. I'm sure it's a lovely thing to see, where they're going after. That's only one exhibition in their lives, and it might change radically. So
no, and I have to say that is one of the best things actually about my job. That because I do a bit of education work in colleges, and I'm was external examiner in a few places, and I get to go around and see younger artists making work, and to be able to pick one or two that we could bring forward and support, and then to watch them maybe after a show in the dock seems to be that they might get picked up then, and that they go on then and maybe have a series of exhibitions where we help to develop a career. That's really where my heart would be, because every young person needs a break. Absolutely. And you need someone to bring them forward.
So that is satisfying for you to watch that and to be brilliant. A small part of it.
In some ways. It is great. It's very special, and it's a very kind of privileged place to be. And, we just kind of do our best, really. But if we can make a difference to someone's career, that's hugely important.
Yeah,
and it's a really good use as well of our resources,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the spaces that you have, so who decides? Is it the artist who decides how they're displayed, or is that a different job of work?
Well, there's all sorts of fancy terms people use, like curator and curatorship and things like that. And essentially what a curator would do is very like a good book editor. They would try and get to understand what the artist is after, what he or she is trying to do, and then support them to realize that. So, or let's say in a group show, the curator might have ideas about how they can knit and bring things together or create a sense of pace when you go through the show. So for example, in the exhibition that we currently have, when you walk into the big room in the dock, which is like an enormous ballroom almost size room, we've created these 8-foot walls that taper off, and they're at these really strange angles. But what that does is slightly decenters you, but it also brings you close to the work. So we would think about devices like that and how the show would flow. And then the decisions with the artist, they're normally made like in consultation with the artist. You discuss it. And then if somebody's very young and you might be able to spot something that maybe they didn't think of, and you can do something a little bit exciting with the work and present it in an interesting way. In the dock, I'm really conscious that like our audience is coming from, our audience are obviously tourists coming through and people travelling through, but also because the population of Carrick, it isn't an enormous population, so we always try and do something, a little bit of a wow factor, that when people walk in, they're kind of, ooh, it's different this time, or it looks... So we're constantly thinking about how we can excite and challenge people. And I have to say, Mary, all of that is down to a great team. And we work with Johnny Markey is our painter, Charlie Pepperall is our woodman, does all our craft in terms of carpentry. So it takes, a good team behind us to help us realize those visions. Yeah. And that team is really important to me. We've had great people working with us over the years that help us do that.
Yeah, and they're lovely. You mentioned those two men, and their lovely presence around the place too. Even when you go in, they're casually there, and it just makes it feel like the whole dock is a work in progress the whole time. The whole, it's nice to see the sands shifting sometimes too. So
I think it's important to keep things really fresh, and not kind of have habitual things that people think, oh, it's always going to be like that, and that it's a little bit of a zing in each show. And we do put up our shows for a good long period of time, but that's because we invest so much in them each time. So I think it's...
So you really want everybody to get a chance to just walk up the stairs and have a look. It is, as you say, sometimes people don't feel it's going to be something that they're interested in, but it costs you nothing to go up and have a nosy around. And, you mightn't like it, or you might love it, or there might be things that, your friend might like that you don't like. But, that is art, and it's for us. It is for all of us. But, talking to some... I'm always amazed at the displaying, because I would have a picture sitting on the floor that I'm terrified to commit where I'll hang it up in my living room, and then to just see the confidence in which it's displayed, and it just looks right. So it's something that I would, you wouldn't want to put me in charge of that kind of thing, but it's
you never
wonderful.
know.
You never know. You never know. So that is the art. So at the moment there's that exhibition with 6 artists on second summer, and it's great to see that, and that'll be up for some time now.
Yeah, so that'll come down. It goes on till the just very early September, and then after that we've a great show. I can't wait for that one. It will be opening sort of towards the end of September, and we're delighted. It's going to be Jackie McKenna from Manor Hamilton, and she's been doing this extraordinary project around. She's making little model of. And she's been adding to it over the years. She initially showed it actually in the Sculpture Centre, and it's of little figurines of humans, of goats, of little huts, and it's from a place in Jericho in Palestine where she had gone to visit, and this particular village is being eroded all the time, and these villagers are just under so much pressure with lack of water being taken away from them and all sorts of infringements in human rights. And Jackie, obviously, McKenna is, a person that's contributed hugely to arts in not just Leitrim, in the region. So being able to bring the exhibition forward in a slightly new iteration is a great honour for us, and I think it's going to be beautiful.
That will be exceptional. And she is a great activist, as you say, and a great... a great worker for young art, great supporter of young artists in Leitrim as well. So we're all very proud of Jackie's work. It's great. So you were talking to me earlier about a series of gigs that are coming up in the dock, which is extremely exciting. Now we have the back of the dock, folks. You probably wouldn't even have been aware that there was this space at the back of the dock, but it is really lends itself to a gig. And it's just when I went out there the other day and I thought, never would have crossed my mind that this place was here and was idle. And I think that's something that COVID has done to a lot of, like even pubs and shops. They've suddenly realised we do have this space that we thought was nothing. So tell us about the space and how you decided to use it as a venue.
Well, you're so right. Like, you were walking around here in town in Carrick and you're peeked through all these courtyards and what the jobs people have done to dicky places up and make them look absolutely amazing is really inspirational. So obviously the theatre in the dock is really small, so really social distancing wasn't really ever going to be a goer, because we'd end up with 15 people in an audience. So we were looking for outside spaces, and this particular space is great because it's kind of it backs on to Hatley Manor, so there's this very, very high stone wall, and then the windows at the back of the dock look on. So it's at the back of the cafe essentially. So it's really nicely proportioned. It's gated, which means we can lock it off at night, and we can put up lovely decorations and make the place look really pretty. So each gig is going to be very intimate, because we can only probably fit somewhere between 42 and 48 people, and we have a lovely lineup for the whole summer. So I actually think people who are lucky enough to get tickets for any of the gigs are going to have just a beautiful evening.
Yes.
Obviously, it'll be covered, and we'll do our best to kind of keep people as dry as possible, but they are outdoors.
And will it be lit, and will there be sound system, or will it be acoustic?
Yeah, we'll have the whole lot. We'll have lighting, and we'd be able to, because it's so close to the building, we'd be able to put in proper sound, the whole lot.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So Ray Duffy will be busy with
the
that.
fantastic Ray Duffy,
gosh,
working
yeah.
his magic with Keith Conroy. So with the team back.
So that's a dream team. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And will you be able to get an old gin and tonic at it?
We have Andy already and dying to open his bar, and I know people really miss chatting with Andy, and so the team will be back, and it's a really great place for us to be in.
And those gigs, I was looking at the lineup now, and the tickets are on sale, and but they're limited, so get in there quick. You're bringing back Jerry Farrell with The Ordinary Man, John McDwyer's.
Yeah, and John obviously has a great long history relationship with the doc, and it's lovely to open with him. And I think particularly for theatre, it's been just, the last year and a half has been pretty miserable. So we're just delighted to have him back, and I know people. It's going to be a lovely piece of work. And it's a great piece of work, because you had it in the doc before. I've seen that piece twice actually, and it's a masterclass in. Jerry is just such an exceptional Leitrim actor, and it would be wonderful to see him. So anybody who hasn't seen that, I'd really recommend it. Then you have Mairead Ní Moiney and Kieran Tourish. So that will be Kieran on piano box, and Mairead does that Alton people from Gweedore, and that won't be long selling out. Green Shine from Cork. And that's actually funny enough. Had been a special request from one of our regulars at the dock that we would, because there any chance we could get Green Shine. So we've made it happen, and
that's brilliant.
They're really excited about coming up.
They're brilliant,
and we were able to get them a night in, so they'll be able to stay over in Cryans, and it'll be just a magic for them, and it'll be magic for the audience.
So we want to make them feel welcome.
We certainly do.
Cork, a family trio, so it is a husband and wife and their daughter.
And actually, they have a fabulous sound, and
is it like Americana or kind of singers, kind of more folky, really, actually. But they've that lovely sound, and I think it is true. Families that sing together have something special going on. And they're worth checking out actually on YouTube, even if you don't make it to the dock. They were in the Glens a few years ago, and
that's right.
And
they've played in Roscommon, I think, a few times as well.
Anybody who's gone to them has really loved it. Then you have some really a lovely combination of traditional musicians: Stephen Doherty, David Ducey, Seamie O'Dowd. So the two Mayo lads, Seamie O'Dowd from Sligo,
and John Joe Kelly. That is going to be a belter of a gig.
I didn't know they were playing together. Are they just coming together recently?
I think this is just a special.
Oh man!
Yeah, this is a special get together. But honestly, I think if that will be really special.
That will blow the roof off, and there isn't even a roof.
There isn't even one.
No, they'll blow down that wall there, that big stone wall.
But they're all kind of guys with, they have a lovely mischief twinkle, every single one of them in their eye, and they're great fun, and they're really good musicians.
I think I've seen them all individually, all in the dock with other people, so they have played with everybody. Really, it's wonderful.
That's the magic. Even if you weren't into pure drop at all, that gig would be.
And Seamie O'Dowd, I always think one of the most, I think he's one of Ireland's best, and his voice, and he's just so talented. They're all wonderful, so that's very exciting. Pierce McLaughlin is coming as well. That'll be his first time in Carrick.
In Carrick, and he's from Blue Stack Records, beautiful singer-songwriter as well. So we wanted to keep it local. So they're from Sligo.
He's one to watch.
Definitely.
For sure. And then we've local lads, Shane Meehan and Mick Mulvey, and Siobhan O'Donnell and Kate McHugh will be playing with them.
Yeah,
so
that's a really interesting project actually. So we started this when we were talking about going online, what we did in COVID. That was one of the things that we did, was called Carry the Tune. And this is another which we recorded live in Cryans, obviously without an audience, and we put out digitally. And what we wanted to do is build on that project. So we've 2 gigs this summer, this one and another one with Gonanam, and they will we're actually going to perform, and then we'll also record it, and then we're going to put them all together again as a digital festival and put it out in November.
Brilliant, because we have to remember we have such talent in this region. I mean, and those people, have been playing. Mick and Shane, I suppose, have been crying since, for so long.
But you know what, Mary? I don't think, sometimes when you live somewhere, you don't really realise what's under your nose. And I, as a blow-in, can tell you that Leitrim is a very, very, very special place
and
in terms of culture.
Liam Crine has, is no small part in keeping the whole thing.
Incredibly generous.
It has been great always to have that. And I know people are really dying to get back into the pubs and all that too, and that'll only be waiting. You've another Gweedore man coming, Cathal O'Curran and Marty Barry. They're both long family histories. Cathal O'Curran, I think he's a UL graduate as well from the World Music Centre there. So they're young and very exciting stuff.
And they're actually they were programmed by Aisling Clark, and we brought that in as a young curator's choice.
Yes.
So Aisling is I think she's writing her thesis this summer. She's just about to graduate from UL herself, an incredibly talented woman from Roscommon.
Yes.
And I asked her would she program a really interesting gig for me as part of the trad. So that is Aisling's choice.
Oh yeah.
So we're delighted to include that and to bring in young
great.
Voices in trad forward. And she's a great woman herself, and
she's a talented musician too.
Very talented and talented person. And
Yes.
I think that's going to be a lovely gig because I just love that energy, that youthful.
Yeah, and he has been playing with He's been playing with all them Gweedore mighty musicians as well, Cathal O'Curran. I mean, it's wonderful to see, because I suppose I saw him playing when he was a child, and it's amazing now to see these, full-grown men come and playing their music and doing so well. Of course, Greenbird, Natalia Baylis and Mohammed Skifkan.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about them.
Well, Natalia is incredible. She's out at Drumsnaway. She's an amazing, multi-talented musician. I think normally or at this time of year, she probably would be travelling, touring. But obviously this year she's at home. So we're delighted that she's agreed.
She is great.
And then Mohammed, you might know, who's just an incredible, talented musician in his own right. Yeah. And they have been collaborating a little bit. They've collaborated, I think, with Vincent Woods and with Edwina Guckian, and it's just great to give them a chance to perform in their own hometown. So that's great.
Brilliant. And he's bouzouki player.
Yeah. And he's played in the dock a few times, but it's lovely to just kind of open the doors and welcome them back.
For sure.
And Cleana is playing then. Cleana, who runs the Olive Tree Cafe, so she'll be there with her partner Mark. Great. So they will also be part of that gig.
That'll be a lively one.
It will. It'll be lovely.
Yeah, they'll be lovely. And Gon Annam, who we had here in the studio last year as well. Now that is just that, and again, you're talking about youth and energy and talent, and just lovely bunch of people, and they're very lively.
They'll be great, and they're real next generation kind of as well. So
it's great to and Dirty Dreamer then, electronic and kind of.
Yes, kind of pop, kind of singer-songwriter kind of vibe off them, and they're obviously from Boyle, Louise Gaffney, and that crew. They're amazing. We brought them into the dock again. We commissioned a song with them in May, and we just thought, well, look. Now that we can go live, it would be a shocker not to bring them in. So that's they're back with us, and they'll have a lovely following as well. Yeah. So we're delighted they're back.
That's great because they're local enough. The people be dying to support them. Myrny Owley, she was supposed to come to the dock. I think that was one of the gigs that was cancelled for lockdown. I had my eye on that.
Yeah. No, I know that a lot of people have big love for Myrn in this area. I saw her up in Kilty Clogher for a gig there about 3 or 4 years ago. There was a celebration gig, and it was just great to get her back to Carrick. So she just has
a great aura about her, a very lovely easiness to her, and
stunning voice. And I love Shannon. I love that traditional.
She's very sincere, and our own Fionnuala will be spotting with her.
So which is really great. So to bring those two great singers together, and so have that lovely. So obviously, bring the Kerry and the Leitrim traditions together.
And Fionnuala doing great research at the moment into Leitrim songs and everything. I mean, this is something that we will be grateful. Our grandchildren will be grateful for. Yeah. She's really doing a lot of work. Jerry Fish needs no introduction, and he has been in the dock before. He has, and loves it there. Irlo Leonard.
Yeah, that's going to be a magic gig. So that gig is coming to us through Music Network, which is a national music organisation, and we were able to, I think we were able to just anchor that for the doc. So that's actually going to be on a Sunday at 5 o'clock. And obviously people know Earlab probably through the gloaming and all of that work that he does. But again, an amazing, beautiful, powerful, poetic Irish style of singing, the Shannon
great
style.
presence and a unique kind of a sound, very distinctive. You'd never mistake him for anybody else.
No, I love his
very
voice.
Distinctive voice. And he's with a cellist and a harpist.
That's right, yeah.
You know, so that will be very exciting.
Yeah, and quite a little bit more, maybe people who are slightly into the more contemporary, moving away from very traditional into more contemporary Irish.
All the time.
Yeah,
you know.
Very experimental.
Yeah.
And Una Monaghan, who's playing with him, is she's from Belfast, I think, but she's really a really interesting woman as well, and she does all sorts of kind of mad, crazy things with the harp. And
it's exciting to think that these people look at the pure drop is always going to be there. It's going nowhere. It's there, and I adore it, and we don't have to touch it. But still, to have people pushing through and doing different stuff, I think it's very exciting, very important.
Yeah.
You know, I always quote Fionnuala Maxwell as saying, you know, you don't worship the ashes, you fan the flames. And it's so true. I mean, it has to keep moving and keep relevant. And,
exactly,
you know.
it has to keep contemporary.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting that the Music Network will do that. They will be able to put together these great partnerships and pairings of kind of unusual people, and it always works. And I think really like that's what you want from your art centre. You know, a little, you know, that you're actually pushing the boundaries a little bit as well.
Exactly,
you know?
Exactly, because we have to allow for that, the experimentation. So that's going to be an exciting summer. So they're running from July the 23rd into September and maybe beyond, who knows. So, you know, as Sarah was saying, there's only about 48 seats. Is there restrictions on how we book those tickets? Do we have to come in pods or tables?
No, in order to accommodate the maximum amount of people, what we tried to do is put them in pods. So the pods of 6. The tickets are €15, but you need to book as a pod of 6.
Yeah.
But you know, really, actually, the tickets are really kind of quite good value.
Okay. And
the fact that it's so small, it's going to be really intimate. Yeah.
And I think it's a place that, you know, we will feel quite safe in, because it's in the open air, but still it's quite sheltered. But it's a great idea to have found that place, and it's your own place. You don't have to, you know, it's there for the taking. So that's very exciting. I was wondering as well, you were doing a lot of work with schools, and I know you have kind of an outreach history with schools in the area. Can you tell me what you've been doing over the last year?
Yeah, well, my colleague Laura Mahan, who runs the education element in the doc, is doing extraordinary work. And one of the projects that we're really kind of proud of at the moment, I mean, obviously we bring the schools in if they, you know, try and do tours of the exhibitions and talk about the artwork and all of that. And that's always just such a fantastic day, because the kids are just brilliant, so interested and so engaged. And so much fun. But this year we set up a little residency with Sculwera here in Carrick and Shannon, and we were working with Orla, the teacher Orla there, and a whole kind of cohort of teachers to develop a project that was looking at the idea of song and songwriting and lyrics and a voice. And we worked with a composer called George Higgs from Dublin. He's a pretty well known composer. And we set it up as a little sort of mini residency, and it was happening for a number of sessions. And we used that as leverage then to go to the national funding organisation, which is the Arts Council, and to try and get a bigger fund for the school. And I just have to say, the school themselves really did lead out, like Sculwera led out on that project and applied for funding. And we just found out actually that they were successful.
Oh,
so that's actually a really big deal.
And what does that mean for them now?
They will have George Higgs as their musician in residence, and they're going to be developing more around lyric writing, songwriting, understanding rhythm and different elements of music, and that will all happen in the classroom for these kids. And it's really thanks to the dedication of their teachers who've gone off and pursued this themselves. And it is actually quite unusual for a school to do this, and they really are exemplary. So our involvement really was kind of like to help them take the first steps, and then they were able to kind of run off and do a lot of the work themselves.
Well, fair play to them.
Yeah,
and really wonderful. It goes to show you, but still it takes a little bit from you and them and the artist as well. And that is, you know, I do see a lot of these collaborations. It's very hard to just do everything yourself. But if you have, you know, somebody like yourself introducing them to the whole concept or giving them a nudge, and they're willing to take it up, it's only then that these things can
Exactly,
take off.
Mary. I think sometimes, like as you said on the outset, sometimes things can seem intimidating or difficult, or, oh, how would I go about doing that? But I think if you can have a bit of support and someone show you, oh, look, actually, you have a great idea there. Let's try and write it up. Let's put shape on it. And you can do something over a long period of time, particularly in the schools where God knows the teachers have had a really tough couple of years. But if you can kind of take those steps with the support of maybe an arts centre or an arts person, cultural worker, and then go off then and develop it further. So it was with George, and we worked with a lovely artist called Anna Spearman, and then obviously Laura in the dock as well. So there was a whole bunch of people working behind the scenes to make it happen. But I have to say, I am really proud of the school because it's down to their great work.
Fair play to them.
And the kids come into us from that school, and they are extraordinary. They're all nationalities. They're all types of kids, and they are smart as buttons.
Good.
And fabulous.
And up for it.
And really interested,
And that is a win-win situation for you, for the school, for the children, and for that artist who now has work down here in Leitrim.
Exactly.
And, it's wonderful. So that is fantastic. Yeah. And you were involved with other art projects with schools outreach as well.
Yeah, there's been a number of things. There's been a lovely project that we've been working with an artist called Annalise, and she's been doing a project called Picture Me with Cavan Leitrim Down Syndrome Association, and they have been taking photographs, encouraging people to use their mobile phones to take photographs. And there's all sorts of tricks you can do that can push your mobile phone just beyond like the basic snap, and she's been teaching them, and they've been capturing their environment. And then we've been working with children online, so they've been doing like art courses with us as well. That happened in sort of November and December of this year, and they went really well. So
great.
So we have actually been really busy.
You have been busy, and driving past the dock during lockdown, you think, oh, it's so sad, it's locked up and nothing's happening. I mean, I've never seen you busier, and it's amazing to see all the stuff going out on the Facebook page. Facebook page is really worth keeping an eye on, because you just really then can realise all that is happening, and with, as you say, our young people in those outreach programmes as well, and bursaries for local artists, and keeping the arts alive. So really, we do appreciate you, Sarah, and we're really, honestly, I mean, you could have taken it a bit easier on yourself, but I mean, we're lucky that you didn't. So, and even this is a very ambitious project, having these series of gigs at the back of the dock, and I hope people really get behind them and support them.
Yeah, so we'll hopefully have a few more exciting things to announce now again in September, so we might be able to go through a bit further into the year with live events. So one thing I would recommend, if you're even slightly bit interested, is sign up for our newsletter. We don't bombard people. You just get a newsletter about once a month, and the people on the newsletter get first dibs and first known about things that are coming up, because they're kind of have committed to us, so that's the way we would work. But hopefully there are good things coming up after this series.
But the theatre is not realistic to open the theatre at the moment with the size of it and distancing.
No, I think there was just so many cancellations, and we just need to own what the situation is, and then thank you for those compliments about the hard work and everything. But from my perspective, like, it was like, let's, there's that lovely expression, dig where you stand. There was so much to do. There were so many opportunities. We were able to turn it on its head and like think differently. And even though it's been an incredibly, challenging time, we had time to do things differently.
Yes.
And I always think that's exciting. So we won't be able to open the theatre in the traditional way, but there's probably a load of other stuff that we can do. And I think it's that kind of can-do positive mindset that kind of gets you over the hump personally, but also you kind of challenges what you're doing. You think, well, let's do stuff differently.
Absolutely, because it was a time, as you say, of despair, and you kind of wonder, what can we do? But I mean, you did kind of say, well, let's own it. And as somebody said to me, if your house burnt to the ground, would you build it exactly the same way? So, to just look at that opportunity, to just say, hold on a minute, is this what we want to be doing? Is there something else we could be doing?
I think that's so relevant for every organisation and every person. You've got these habits, you do things a certain way all the time. This break, obviously it's been a fracture, in a way, but also a break in time to think, well, exactly, how can we build it differently? How can we just change things and, mix things up a little bit? I mean, that's not to say that we cannot wait for more people to come back into the building, of course, but let's challenge ourselves as well.
Yes, and to remember that the building is open and the exhibitions are free and they're there for everybody to enjoy. The Leitrim Design House is open for business. The tickets can be bought online or by ringing the...
I'd recommend people to go online, actually. Okay. Yeah, it's the quickest and most efficient.
Yes. So get your tickets online for any one of those great gigs that are coming up. Really lovely choices there, and I hope you all enjoy them when you get them. And we'll be in there and see you all outside, out the back, at the dock. Sarah, thank you so much for coming in here to see us in Leitrim Daily. It's been lovely talking to you, and we'll see you at the back of the dock.
Thanks so much, Mary. It's an absolute pleasure to see you again.